Why? It's a small word, just 3 little letters, but it carries the weight of the world. We ask it when life throws a stone in our path. We whisper it in the dark when a shadow falls over our heart. Why did this have to happen to me? We ask it when we lose something we love, when a plan falls apart, or when pain visits our home. It is the universal question, the one that connects us all. We are all just travelers on this long, winding road, and sometimes the map makes no sense. We search for answers, for reasons, for a sign that tells us we are headed in the right direction. But often, we find only silence. And what happens when good fortune smiles upon us? We celebrate. We feel a sense of relief, a moment of joy that feels like sunshine after a long rain. We tell ourselves, finally, something good has happened. We believe our prayers have been answered, and our struggles have been rewarded. We see it as a clear sign, a green light from the universe, telling us that everything is going to be okay. But life is not a straight line. It is a dance of shadows and light, a constant rhythm of giving and taking. What we call good and what we call bad are often just 2 sides of the same coin, and we only see one side at a time. In a small, quiet village nestled between rolling green hills, lived a man named Mr. Adam. He was not a rich man. He did not own vast lands or have a house filled with fine things. He had a small farm, a humble cottage, and a son named Daniel. Mr. Adam was a simple man, but he was not a sad one. He found joy in the rising sun, in the taste of fresh bread, and in the quiet moments he spent with his son. He understood something that many of us forget. Happiness is not about having everything you want, but about accepting everything you have. He lived with a quiet gratitude, a gentle peace that came from his deep faith. His fellow villagers, however, did not always understand him. They measured a man's worth by the coins in his pocket or the number of cattle in his field. They saw Mr. Adam's poverty and pitied him. They saw his calm acceptance and mistook it for a lack of ambition. They were quick to judge, quick to label things as either good luck or bad luck. They lived their lives on a seesaw of emotions, soaring with every small victory and crashing with every minor setback. But Mr. Adam remained steady, like an old oak tree, his roots deep in the earth, unshaken by the changing seasons of life. Mr. Adam had one possession that was the envy of the village, a beautiful, strong horse named Max. Max was more than just an animal. He was a partner. He helped Mr. Adam plow the fields, carry goods to the market, and travel to neighboring towns. His coat shone like polished chestnut in the sun, and his spirit was as gentle as it was strong. Wealthy merchants came from far and wide, offering bags of silver for the magnificent horse. "Sell him, Adam," the villagers would urge. "Think of all the things you could buy. You would be a rich man. This is your chance." But Mr. Adam would simply smile and shake his head. "Max is family," he would say, "and you do not sell your family." One morning, the unthinkable happened. Mr. Adam went to the stable, and the stall was empty. The gate was broken, swinging silently in the breeze. Max was gone. The news spread through the village like wildfire. His neighbors gathered at his gate, their faces a mixture of pity and a strange, knowing satisfaction. "Oh, you poor man," they cried. "What terrible luck! That horse was your only treasure, and now he is gone. If only you had sold him when you had the chance. You were foolish to keep him." They wagged their fingers, their words like little stones thrown at his quiet grief. They saw only the loss, the empty space where a valuable asset used to be. Daniel, his son, was heartbroken. He had grown up with Max, brushing his coat and sharing secrets with the gentle giant. He sat on the porch, his head in his hands, tears streaming down his young face. "Father," he sobbed, "how could this happen? It is a disaster. It is the worst thing that could ever happen to us." Mr. Adam sat beside him, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. He did not offer easy answers or false hope. He simply looked at the horizon and said softly, "Who can say if it is good or bad? We do not know the whole story. We only see this one page. Let us wait and see what God has planned." The villagers whispered about Mr. Adam's strange calmness. "He has lost his mind along with his horse," they muttered to one another. They saw his patience as weakness, his faith as foolishness. They could not comprehend how a man could face such a great loss without anger or despair. They were so certain it was a curse, a terrible stroke of bad luck. They could not imagine any other possibility. For them, the story was over. The horse was gone, and Mr. Adam was a poor, foolish old man who had lost everything. They went back to their lives, content in their judgment, certain they knew the truth of the matter. A week passed. The village had moved on, the story of the lost horse already fading into memory. Then, one evening, as the sun began to set, a sound echoed through the hills. It was the sound of thundering hooves. The villagers came out of their homes, shielding their eyes to see a remarkable sight. There, galloping toward Mr. Adams' farm, was Max. And he was not alone. Following closely behind him were 5 wild horses, their manes flying in the wind, their bodies strong and untamed. Max had not been stolen, he had escaped, and now he had returned bringing a herd of new friends with him. It was a miracle. The same neighbors who had pitied Mr. Adam now rushed to his gate, their faces beaming with excitement. "Adam, you are the luckiest man alive," they shouted. "What incredible fortune! Your one horse disappeared and now you have 6. This is a blessing from heaven. You will be the richest man in the village." They slapped him on the back, their voices loud with praise. They had completely forgotten their earlier judgments. Just days before, they were certain of his misfortune. Now, they were equally certain of his great fortune. Their opinions changed as quickly as the direction of the wind, always reacting to the latest event. Daniel danced with joy. He ran to the fields, his heart soaring. "Father, you were right. You were right," he exclaimed. "This isn't bad luck at all. It's the best thing that has ever happened to us." He looked at the 6 horses, their powerful forms silhouetted against the twilight sky, and saw a future filled with wealth and ease. He saw an end to their struggles, a reward for their patience. The emptiness he had felt just a week ago was now overflowing with an exhilarating sense of victory. He thought he finally understood the lesson his father was trying to teach him, that good things come to those who wait. But Mr. Adam remained calm. He watched the horses with a gentle smile, his heart filled with gratitude, but his spirit was not swept away by the excitement. He patted Max's neck and gave thanks for his safe return. When the villagers crowded around him, praising his good luck, he simply nodded. "Who can say if it is good or bad?" he said quietly, his voice a calm ripple in the sea of their excitement. "We have been given this gift, and for that, we are thankful. But it is just another page in the story. We must keep reading to see what comes next." His words were a puzzle to them, a strange response to such an obvious blessing. With 6 horses to care for, there was much work to be done. The 5 wild horses were spirited and strong, and they needed to be tamed and trained. Daniel, young and full of confidence from their newfound fortune, took on the task himself. He was eager to prove his skill, to turn these wild creatures into valuable assets for his family. He spent every day in the fields, working tirelessly to break in the new horses. He felt strong and capable, believing that this was his destiny, his moment to shine. He imagined the respect he would earn from the villagers, and the pride he would bring to his father. One afternoon, while trying to mount the most spirited of the wild stallions, the horse bucked violently. Daniel was thrown to the ground with tremendous force. He landed awkwardly, and a sharp cracking sound echoed across the quiet field. He cried out in pain. Mr. Adam rushed to his side to find his son's leg bent at an unnatural angle. It was a terrible break, a severe and complicated injury. He carefully carried his son back to the cottage, his heart heavy with a father's worry. The village healer was summoned, and after examining the boy, he shook his head gravely. The leg would heal, he said, but it would take a long, long time. Once again the villagers gathered. Their faces, which had so recently been filled with envy and admiration, were now clouded with pity and judgment. "Oh, that poor Adam," they whispered among themselves. "First he was lucky, but now look. This is a curse. Those wild horses were not a blessing. They were a trap. His son is injured, perhaps for life. He would have been better off if that first horse had never come back." They saw the broken leg as proof that the good fortune had been an illusion, a cruel trick played by fate. They felt a sense of grim satisfaction, as if the world had been set right again. Daniel lay in his bed, his leg tightly bound in splints, his spirit broken. The physical pain was immense, but the pain in his heart was even greater. "Father," he said, his voice weak and full of despair, "the villagers are right. This is a disaster. It was all a mistake. We were so lucky, and now we have nothing but this pain. Why did this have to happen?" Mr. Adams sat by his bedside, bathing his forehead with a cool cloth. He looked at his son with deep love and compassion. "My son," he said softly, "we do not know what is a disaster and what is a blessing. We only feel the pain of this moment. Let us be patient. God's plan is bigger than this room." A few weeks later, a new sound rumbled through the village. It was not the thundering of hooves, but the rhythmic, menacing beat of war drums. Soldiers from the king's army marched into the village square, their faces grim, their armor glinting in the sunlight. A decree was read aloud. A great war had begun, and every able-bodied young man was required to join the fight. There was no choice. It was a command from the throne. Panic and sorrow swept through the village like a cold wind. Mothers wept, and fathers held their sons in tight, desperate embraces. The future, which had seemed so certain just moments before, was now a terrifying unknown. The soldiers went from house to house, their fists banging on every door. They took the baker's son, the blacksmith's apprentice, and the sons of every farmer. Young men who had spent their lives working the land were handed swords and shields and marched away from their homes. The village was filled with the sounds of crying and heartbreaking goodbyes. Many of the families knew, deep in their hearts, that they might never see their sons again. The war was said to be fierce and bloody, a brutal conflict in a distant land from which few were expected to return. The entire village was draped in a heavy blanket of fear and grief. The soldiers came to Mr. Adams' cottage. They pounded on the door and stepped inside. They saw Daniel lying in his bed, his leg still in its heavy cast. The officer looked at the boy, then at his broken limb, and then at Mr. Adam. He shook his head. "This one is of no use to us," he said dismissively. "He cannot march, let alone fight." Without another word, the soldiers turned and left, their footsteps fading as they moved on to the next house. Mr. Adam and Daniel were left alone in the quiet cottage, the silence broken only by the distant sobs of their neighbors. Daniel was safe. He had been spared. Years passed. The war raged on, and as the village had feared, very few of the young men who were taken ever came home. The families who had lost their sons were shrouded in a permanent state of mourning. The village grew quiet and somber, a place of empty chairs and unspoken grief. The neighbors who had once pitied Mr. Adam for his son's broken leg now looked at him with a different kind of envy. They saw Daniel, now fully healed, walking beside his father, helping on the farm. They saw life where they had only emptiness. They saw a son who had been saved, a family that was still whole. One sunny afternoon, as Daniel and Mr. Adam sat on their porch watching the remaining horses graze peacefully in the field, Daniel finally understood. All the pieces of the puzzle clicked into place. The lost horse, the unexpected return, the wild herd, his own painful injury. It was not a random series of fortunate and unfortunate events. It was a chain, each link connected to the next. If Max had not run away, he would not have brought back the other horses. If the other horses had not come, Daniel would not have tried to train them. If he had not broken his leg, he would have been marched off to war, never to return. He turned to his father, his eyes filled with a new kind of wisdom, a deep and humble understanding. "Father," he said, his voice full of awe, "all this time, you knew. You knew that what seemed bad was good, and what seemed good was a path to something else entirely." Mr. Adams smiled, his weathered face crinkling at the corners of his eyes. "No, my son," he replied gently. "I did not know. I only believed. I believed that life is like a great tapestry. We spend our lives on the backside, seeing only the tangled threads and messy knots. We cannot see the beautiful picture that God is weaving on the other side. We only need to trust that the artist knows what he is doing." The story of Mr. Adam became a quiet legend in the village, a lesson passed down from parents to children. It taught them to be patient with life's unfolding story. It taught them to hold their judgments, to not be so quick to label things as good or bad. A great loss might be clearing the way for an unexpected gift. A moment of great fortune might be a test of character, or a step toward a different, unforeseen challenge. Life is not a simple equation of pluses and minuses. It is a mystery, a journey where the destination is less important than the faith we carry with us along the way. And so, the greatest lesson is this: have faith. Be patient in times of trouble, for this too shall pass. Be humble in times of joy, for this too shall pass. Embrace each moment with a grateful heart, trusting that every twist and turn has a purpose, even if you cannot see it right away. We are all walking a path that has been laid out for us, a story that is being written one day at a time. Do not despair over a difficult chapter, and do not assume a happy chapter is the end. Just keep turning the pages, with faith, with hope, and with love. For in the end, every thread, every knot, and every color comes together to create a masterpiece.